Ahoy! This is Harry Hansen reminding you to like and subscribe to the show on YouTube by going to youtube.com at the Lager Room 5111 and clicking subscribe. Or just go to youtube.com and search for the Lager Room. Either way, it's as easy as falling off a log. Thanks a bundle.
Jimmy Jungle, well, I'm dribble to a dribble. But now you're going to slobber and you're crying in the middle of a goblet. Benihana. Hatchy, hooky, boogie, it's a little itchy poo. Reading around the collar, heavy betting up the shoe. You're eating for lasagna on Wonder Woman with Madonna. Baklava.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Get On With It Sports Show. It is Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, none other Mr. Radio Pete and Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. How are you, gents, today?
Baklava.
Baklava.
I could go for some right now, although I'm not a huge fan of it. But I haven't had it in like more than a decade, I'd say. And now, because I've been hearing that song so often, now I'm like, maybe we should get some.
You know, that song's not about baklava.
No, it's not.
It's
about Benihana.
It's not about Benihana either.
And Madonna.
Oh, maybe.
Or Maradona.
No.
Another intro.
Yes. Well, here we are.
Well, if we only knew the person that wrote and sung the song, we could ask them what the song was.
We can find out what it's about.
The song is, that'll be a whole other, they'll save that for a podcast where we actually get back to talking about things people are interested in.
Yeah.
Today, we will be talking about the Jets' third string center and what the Mets need to do to secure a backup catcher for the playoffs.
What the Mets need to do is secure the Jets' third string center.
That's right. That's right.
I will just say this about the Jets. I am enjoying hearing all the pundits go over the top now. I heard the guy just this morning, I forget who it was, talking about how what's his name is going to have a career season because they've beefed up the offensive line and they've got great running backs and all that.
Oh, yeah.
So Justin Fields is going to tear it up this season.
He's going to tear it up.
Who knows how far he can go.
He's going to have the best season he's ever had in New York.
You guys are definitely, there's so much horse shit on the radio in New York.
There was nothing wrong with what I just said.
No.
But that's the pattern, right? Pump these guys up.
Is it?
If it doesn't, it is. Oh, it absolutely is here in New York.
Well,
anything
you know what?
New York, anybody does anything good for more than 8 seconds, and they're
speak for your own team in the Jets because everybody is shitting on the Giants. I think they're picking them to maybe win one game.
Speaking of New York, can we for once start with a timely topic on this podcast?
Why don't we? And speaking of New York, I will just say one thing. The Juan Soto's troubles are over.
Oh, God.
No, I have to say it. Juan Soto's troubles are over. Okay?
Yeah,
because as of right now, I am wearing his jersey.
Yeah. And he's starting to have better at bats. He's seeing the ball.
Yeah,
see how he swung and missed at that, but not as much as he was missing before.
He's hitting 170.
Yeah, well, that's for now.
For the last,
he's on his way to 350.
Well, of course,
he's taking up. He's going up.
It's almost
he's sleeping on a bed of money.
Yeah, maybe that.
Speaking of the Juan Soto of the basketball world, are the Knicks done?
I believe so.
They got to win one more, don't they?
I think they're going to win. They're going to win the next game.
I think they're going to lose the next game, but win the game after that.
Yeah,
which just means they're going to win their home opener. That's
second game of life.
Second math-based dad joke within the last 3 minutes.
No, they're going to win. They're going to win. They're going to win tomorrow night. They're going to win on Thursday, and then they're going to lose in Indiana. I would love nothing more for them to force a game 7 and get back to the Garden, win or lose, because at least they pushed it there. They look. we're jumping right in to this, and I'm just going to say this when it comes to the Knicks. Where the hell was the defense last night?
Where the hell was the defense this whole series?
Well, the whole series, but last night in particular was worse than the other 4 games.
Yeah,
3 games.
Well, we'll talk about all that. I don't want to. What is it?
I forgot. We got stuff to.
Well, no. What is it? They bury the lead. I don't want to bury the lead. The most important thing that we have to talk about, obviously. Yeah,
meme of the week, folks.
It's meme of the week.
Can the memes at some point become sports memes?
Here you go. Hold on, Pete. We have to from now on. All right. Did you hear Harry's exultation? Like,
yeah,
when you started it, that has to go into the theme.
All right,
to put that in there.
All right. Anyway. Mark the time about 6:15.
It was right around 6 Yeah, 6 minutes, 6:15.
So somewhere between 6 and 6:30.
I'll write it down.
Yeah. I'm gonna make that. I might make that my ringtone too.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Vampires suck. Other guys.
The other guys. And I love this because it's a double feature. Kids, $3. $3 for 5 to 6 hours of movies and a little bit more of an education than you probably wanted your kids to have in the first place.
That's right.
Vampires suck. Other guys.
I'll tell you what, they finally released this on DVD, the editor's cut, and it's really good.
Actually, it was on those. Actually, I think they released on those big laser discs. Remember
you could see the bite marks and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what?
Open Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah, the Wednesday, Thursday matinee during the summer, I guess.
There you go.
I don't know. What year do you think this was from?
Oh, geez. Vampires suck. Other guys. I think that came out.
It looks. I'm guessing 80s.
Double feature, the $7 kids.
You do realize that this is not real, that this was manipulated.
No, this is
I
completely
think it's real.
The way
100%.
the sign is bent in the middle a little bit, like it's partially broken. That's the way it really is.
We show nothing on here that is not 100% vetted and real. It's 100%.
Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, there we go.
All right.
There you go. Meme of the week. Meme of the week. There you go.
Meme of the week,
All right.
which is brought to you by anybody. Could be you.
Become a sponsor.
We are
write us in. You're going to be you're going to be our sponsor for Meme of the Week.
We have sponsorships available, so
exactly.
Feel free to do.
Hit us up. We will we'll let you know what the pricing structure is, and we'll get you going. We'll set
there
you
go. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, where do we want to go first?
We should talk about basketball.
We should talk about basketball first.
Yeah. So here's my take. I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been, obviously this basketball playoffs has not been.
This is for you, by the way, Harry.
For me. Thank you, and that'll certainly be for you.
It's a Nocino Negroni. So.
Yeah, thank you, Nocino Nachano.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the two teams that are probably going to play in the NBA Finals. There's one thing they have in common. They've got, obviously a superstar, and they've got depth. They go deep. Mm-hmm. And both the Nuggets and the Knicks, they don't.
Do you remember last year when the Knicks had more depth than they did this year?
Yeah. Well, the Knicks traded offense for defense. I mean, they traded defense. What they got in Karl Anthony Towns, who, may I preface this by saying, I think he's actually played really well.
He has. No one has. But where did Brunson go in the fourth quarter?
Well, Brunson had 31 points. But here's the thing.
Yeah, but he had nothing in the fourth quarter.
Brunson and Towns at times are defensive liabilities. They're both horribly ranked defensive players. I will say Towns has done a little bit better, and I did like when he was in there with Robinson. But what that hurts them on, then, while it helps down low, is that they just can't get out and defend the shooters, and Halliburton just tore them apart.
He did.
And I mean, I think I agree with you. I think the Knicks maybe win one more, but I don't see this going 7. And I certainly, it's hard for me to envision the Knicks coming back and winning this series.
There's no look, the way they have played these last 4 games, including the one they won, right? Yeah. The way they've played these 4 games, there's no way they're winning 3 in a row.
No,
not happening.
And look, even the best teams, it's usually that first game, on the road. In this case, it was the first game at home for Indiana, but it was the first game on the road for Oklahoma. That, there's always going to be a letdown. Mm-hmm. But both of these teams know how to win close games. They execute better. They know how to work the refs to get more calls in their favor, and they don't turn the ball over. Man, the Knicks, especially not so much yesterday, but 2 games before, holy smokes, I've never seen a team it looked like preseason. No, they were turning the ball over with the smallest of pressure. And they didn't look like they were ready to handle Indiana. Like they were just not prepared for them.
They've been so outmatched. It's been ridiculous. Where is the team now? That begs this question, though. That begs this question. I've been thinking about this, right? Was Boston really that bad, or did the Knicks, quote unquote, and I mean no disgusting ill will by this, or did the Knicks, quote unquote, shoot their load in that first series?
I don't think either.
Before you answer that, let me throw this in because I want to add this, and this is related to that topic, because what I hear a lot of the professional pundits say is that the Knicks were 2 things. Number one, they were built to beat the Celtics, not necessarily built to win the NBA championship. And they did and then the other thing that the continuing on is they were not built to beat Indiana, and they are really having to play outside of their game that they have played all year long. And it's very physically exhausting and very mentally exhausting. And they might be at this point broken. So I wanted to put that out there and then get your thoughts on that, because I don't know if any of that's true or not. But
I think to John's point, I think it's really hard to repeat, and I think Boston had a little bit of a problem that a lot of teams have, is in that they were kind of hobbling into the playoffs, and they also weren't as deep as they had been in years past. They didn't have, as much of a contribution from people like Porzingis and others. And Jason Tatum did not have this, and Brown did not, look, when they won the championship, everything was working. You could say that about a bunch of teams, right? They follow up the next season and they get beat. And you saw that with the Nuggets. You saw that going back with the Bucks. You saw that with Toronto. You see this with a lot of teams that just have what it takes to win a championship. And then that fragile chemistry, especially when it comes to the bench players, just doesn't translate to the next year for a variety of reasons. Most of the time with the competition just being able to match up better against them and having to go an entire season where people are gunning for you because you're the champs. So I think the Knicks matched up well against Boston. I think that if the Knicks and Boston were both completely healthy and they played five series, it could be 3-2. I think they match up fairly well. I think if Tatum plays to his ability, then that's the difference maker. But he didn't. And I think that's because Boston is not as dynamic or as good of a defensive team as Indiana is. Indiana's big, long, and they create matchup problems for the Knicks. And in the playoffs, everything becomes tighter. Scoring at the rim becomes harder. Making that 3-pointer go down becomes harder. And Halliburton and the rest of Indiana have been able to make that happen. And look, it's little contributions. It's 6 big points off the bench by Obi Toppin. It's a different guy every night stepping up and knocking down 16 to 20 points and shooting 60% from 3. It's the defensive turnovers that they cause because Brunson's got the ball in his hands so much. And look, there's one other thing I will say, and this has been consistent throughout the playoffs. The big men in this league do not get calls anymore. They get their asses handed to them game in and game out, and they do not get any calls. I've seen Karl Anthony Towns pushed in the back going up for a layup, and nothing is called. I've seen Jokic literally being held by the arm with two arms by a defender, and nothing's called. And yet you whisper at SGA, and he's at the free throw line.
Mm-hmm. So the officiating is terrible.
The officiating has been suspect. Look, if you want, I like the fact that they're letting them play. This Knicks Indiana series, it's not the 1990s, but they're letting them play. Yeah. It's been inconsistent, I think, in the West.
I got to be honest with you, and to that point, not to cut you off, but to that point, it's got to be purely it can't be any suspect when it comes to the refs, right? When it comes to the calling of the game by the refs, there's nothing suspect about it, because if it were and some people were talking about this morning, that's why I'm bringing it up. If the fix was in, do you really think the NBA wants the NBA championship to be Indiana OKC?
Well, they want the Knicks in there. I mean, they would prefer that. The OKC thing is that they found that SGA is very marketable, and they for a variety of reasons, they don't want a boring Serbian as the face of the NBA, and he fits the mold. He's part Kobe, he's part Michael, and he flops up the best of them. Now, I'm not saying he's not a great player. He is.
There's been people talking, and I've seen a bunch of takes on this, that are saying that Brunson is more of a flopper than SGA.
And Brunson is a flopper. The difference is that Brunson can't hold on to the ball when he flops. Mm-hmm. And Brunson's a big star in New York. Mm-hmm. But nobody knows Brunson. I mean, Brunson's not as marketable as SGA. SGA's got marquee looks, and he's
got Canada too. He's Canadian. He's got the whole country.
He's got all 12 basketball fans in Canada like him. The 13th gave up on Jamal Murray. The
13th is still rooting for Vince Carter.
The 13th,
Vince Carter. Yeah. I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, look, Indiana's a little bit of a surprise. OKC is not, and I'll tell you what. I'll get into the West a little bit, because I actually think it's an interesting. I think it's interesting what OKC's been able to do.
Let me ask you about one other thing about Indiana, then, before we go to the West.
Yeah.
Tell me if this is just me. Right, the Pacers were a number 4 seed coming in, but what you just said, they were a surprise. Didn't they go to the conference finals last year?
They did.
So why does it seem to me, or maybe it's just me, that there is so much more pressure on everybody, and the Pacers are playing with house money?
Well, I think there's pressure on the Pacers, but I think they're the Pacers, So I mean,
they're a good team.
But
they were the 4th seed. They weren't in the. They didn't have to play in to get.
But when you have the season Cleveland had, and you have the repeating champs and the hype around the Knicks. The story, they were not part of the storyline. They were not part of. I also think
they just weren't interesting enough.
Let me ask both of you this:
to draw a lot of. They just weren't interesting enough to draw a lot of attention
during the regular season,
or as interesting as all this other stuff going.
They're also peaking right now and playing their best basketball.
Let me ask both of you this: who's a better head coach, Rick Carlisle or Tibbs?
I think Carlisle's a little bit more flexible. They're both old school. Look, I think Carlisle's out coaching him because he's been able. This is the same thing why Michael Malone is no longer the coach of the Nuggets. These old guys, okay, and they're not that they're that old, they're our age, but they've been around long enough that they don't like relying on young rookie talent in the playoffs for big minutes. And I don't blame them, because I see what happens when it does happen. But when you look at a team like OKC and you look at a team like Indiana, their bench is deep. And that is always the case on a team that wins a championship. They just look fresher than these teams coming down the stretch. And it's because they log big minutes. Tibbs has been known to ride his starters, and it gets even tighter come playoff time.
And I've been a big proponent of saying that Mitchell Robinson needs more minutes,
and he did
because of the defense, and that's fine. But here's the problem, though: fouling him left and right because he can't hit anything from the line.
Right.
So he gets the ball in his hand, and granted, if he's playing D usually, but if he comes down with a board, boom, he's fouled, and he's not hitting anything.
Here's the biggest difference on the Knicks this year from last year. The Randall Karl-Anthony Towns thing is is too dynamic and to sort of make a comment on it, and I don't think they replaced each other apples to apples.
They did.
There's differences. The biggest difference on the Knicks I see is making the biggest difference on OKC, and that's Hartenstein. Mm-hmm. The fact that he's no longer on the Knicks and and they lost him, he is a difference maker. Now he also cannot sometimes hit free throws and he fouls up. But let me tell you something. Outside, way beyond the box score, he's a difference maker. And what he has done to team up with Chet Holmgren has made Holmgren and that OKC team head and shoulders better than they were last year. And Hartenstein on the Knicks, instead of Mitchell Robinson, I think the Knicks can get past Indiana then. I think that's the biggest difference.
He brings a lot of energy. And
he's a great defensive player.
And I got to be honest with you. I think that, I mean, you're right about the whole Randall thing. But, Hartenstein, and second to Hartenstein, DiVincenzo.
Right. And you're not getting the consistent contributions from OG and Mikal Bridges. No. You know, they're both great players or good players. They just haven't consistently, and Hart hasn't necessarily been Josh Hart either. So
that's the thing. Like, I mean, you're not hearing about some of these other players, and I'm a Bridges fan, of course, because of his time with the Nets. But he's not expected to carry the team, and he did a little bit here and there, but the last couple of games he's been pretty quiet, and that hurt. Not hearing good things, not seeing big stat lines from Hart.
And why is it that every single
falling on Brunson and Towns, and they're not,
because they're the only two that can create their own shot.
But my point is, they're not getting. The Knicks were getting those nights when somebody else was stepping up.
Let me tell you something about the playoffs in the NBA. Good players that you can sometimes think are great players in the regular season get exposed in the playoffs.
Right.
Okay? And they just become ghosts of themselves. Yeah. And it's because the difference in the NBA in the playoffs versus the regular season, there is no other sport where that difference is as huge. It's insane. It just gets tighter and the defense becomes so much more intense. And if you are not able to create that little bit of separation and you're not able to see that difference in where you're passing the ball and how you're moving the ball and the velocity of your passes and the arc of your shot, if you're not able to make that adjustment, you're not going to be successful. And that's the difference between the teams that are winning right now and the teams that aren't. And I even see it in Brunson. Look, he's had a lot of turnovers and he gets stuck with the ball in his hand deep in the corner. They're just not moving the ball the way that the Knicks have been able to move the ball before. And that's the difference between Randall and Cat. Cat can create his own shot. Cat can become a decent offensive rebounder. He's a great offensive player. But Randall was a good passer, and the ball moved pretty well towards when they were playing together in a productive way. Now, granted, there wasn't a lot of Randall didn't play a lot of games healthy with Brunson. I get that.
That was his biggest problem. If he was healthy, he'd still be on the Knicks.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with him right now and how he's disappearing in this OKC series. And I got my thoughts on that too because I've watched a lot of OKC in the last couple months. And the reality is that they are the best defensive team I have seen since the fucking Bulls. They're that good. Yeah, they're that good. Imagine that. Julius Randle is not being successful against Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, Jaden Williams, and the rest of the OKC Thunder, which are big, fast, aggressive, and defensive minded. Can't imagine that.
Look, I got to say, I said it before. I said it before in the beginning, before we did Meme of the Week. Where was the defense? I mean, now where's been the defense for the Knicks for the last 4 games, right, in the series? But last night it was like, okay, here's your 3-point shot. Go ahead, take it. We're going to stand like 20 feet away from you again.
I think they're tired.
This whole year, though, I don't get the identity of the Knicks to me has never been defense. It's been resilience. They're able to come back from being down. But in the face of today's NBA, though, they actually were not bad when it came to defense. Okay, right? But not bad doesn't win you an NBA championship. But giving up 130 points to Indiana in a must-win game is not good defense. You're right.
100%. You know, and then there's been a couple of people saying, "Oh, the Knicks aren't getting any calls." They went to in the last 2 games, the game they won and the game they lost, the last 2 games, game 3 and game 4. They went to the line 79 times. Yeah.
I've watched both.
That's
series.
A couple of calls. I've watched both
series. I don't see any blatant Knicks not getting the call. I think that series has been called pretty fairly, and quite honestly, I think if Brunson's the biggest name on the Knicks, I feel like he's able to create the calls more so than Halliburton. Okay, in the West, it's a completely different story. It's horrific. SGA he flops his way to the free throw line, and Anthony Edwards is not getting, the same treatment. So it is what it is. We've always had people who are good at this. Right. And I'm not saying he's not a great player. He is, but you would think that somebody who's won, 3 MVPs would get at least a half of the calls that somebody who just won his first did.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about OKC, and they play very physical defense, and
very physical
about letting them play. But it seems like no one else, or at least in this case, the Timberwolves are not allowed to play
them the way they play you.
And that's like officiating is bad in every single pro sports league.
Everyone, with the exception of SGA, every one of OKC's players approaches the game as if they're Ron Harper on the 99 Bulls. They are in your grill.
Yeah.
And they are hand checking and grabbing and pushing, and they're going to get under your skin. And let me tell you something, it's working. They're a really good defensive team. They're, like I said.
Yeah, and when you're able to kind of maul, in some cases, guys like that, and then on the other side, when you're on offense,
right,
and SGA's got the Jordan rules, right?
He does. And the Canadian thing, version too, is that they're so
those
big.
2 things are very hard to overcome.
And that they're so big. Look, Holmgren, if anything, is near the rim. He's either blocking it or shoving it back in.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people realize how much of a game changer this guy is. And with Hartenstein being able to, and they play together vast majority of their minutes, they're both on the court together. Holmgren can cover a wing. He can get out and make, he's a very dynamic player. And the garbage points that he gets around the basket is a game changer. And that's what I think is going to be the difference should these 2 teams go to the finals, is that I think Indiana can match up against OKC, but I just think OKC it's really hard to score around the rim, even layups and just putbacks. It's really hard to get the easy baskets against them. And they're a monster on the glass. And that's what I think is going to be the difference should these 2 teams go to the finals, is that I think Indiana can match up against OKC, but I just think OKC it's really hard to score around the rim, even layups and just putbacks. It's really hard to get the easy baskets against them. And they're a monster on the glass.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all.
Look, Minnesota's not a small team, but Randall and Rudy Gobert have not been able to assert themselves in this series. And Ant-Man, who's, everybody last year was saying was the heir apparent to, who was the next Jordan / Kobe, he's playing the same role Brunson is in the East. They're having great games, but they're just not executing. It's not them. It's the fact that they're playing against teams that are able to focus on them, and they're tying them up and forcing them into turnovers. Yeah. And it's just the tightening of the belt. The defense is really good.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of talk with all the other talk that, you know, Knicks fans, when it comes to the Knicks fans making sense of it, right? Making or what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Not making sense of it. Coming to grips with reality and what's happening there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you see it.
And they're saying that, you know, start in 2021, right, and go forward. They've gotten further,
of course,
incrementally each year. This is the first time they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals since 2000.
They're one of the top 4 teams in the NBA, at least according to success and
right now.
How far they've gotten.
Exactly.
Right.
And this is obviously this is further than they've gotten since 25 years ago, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, 25 years ago they lost to Indiana, but the year before they beat Indiana, so there was that too. And you know, 5 years before that, and lost to Spurs. And 5 years before that, they beat Indiana and lost to the Rockets. Right, but you know, see a pattern here. But you know, can we get to an Eastern Conference Finals and not play Indiana? Is that possible?
Well, look, here's the one thing about Indiana that's different than OKC. Indiana has played really good ball the last quarter of the season, and they're playing their best basketball in the playoffs because they're able to really focus on what they're able to do. They're able to leverage that, which translates better to playoff basketball, and they're deep. They don't have a problem going to their bench, and it's not just to spell the starters their minutes. You just don't see the drop off. You get contributions from 6, 7, and 8. It's not just somebody spelling minutes or somebody trying to spare, you know, Cat or Brunson a breather. You know, it's not that. The Nuggets took OKC to 7 games, and I would say that they barely had a starting 4. Mm-hmm. Okay, their 5th and 6th guys made me want to, or their 5th, 6th, and 7th guys made me want to, you know, jump off the top row. So the Knicks, it could be worse, you know, but the Knicks bench is not deep. And here's the thing: moving forward, they gave up a lot of draft picks for Mikal Bridges, so it's not like they can go out there and get cheap first round, second round draft picks in the next couple of years to fill some of these spots and grow them into their bench roles. That's going to be an issue moving forward.
I agree. And to your point before, and I know I said it before and I'll say it again, the biggest loss I think that, you know, and I said it when it happened last year was Hartenstein. Yeah,
and OKC has been really smart. And look, they're going to be a better team next year because they have draft picks that they can use. They can afford to pay SGA and some of these other guys, Holmgren, some extensions and some bigger salaries because they can backfill with younger players, and they've been able to grow these guys into support roles that are contributing big time.
Agreed.
It's it'll be interesting. I actually think it's been an interesting NBA playoffs. When I watched the Knicks last night and even the game that they won, I can't see them beating Indiana in a series right now.
I you know what? I came away from that win 3 nights ago, Sunday night, not satisfied that they won. Like
you knew they were going to win. You knew they were going to win that game, right?
Right.
And you know,
like that game wasn't the marker of whether they were capable of winning. That was just a game they were going.
I think this series was completely determined with the collapse of Game 1 by the Knicks. I just think you felt it. You felt it.
Yeah, well, and look, we're talking about, you know, the better teams in the playoffs, assumedly, go on, and you can't afford to give those away. You know,
no, and I think Brunson and Cat will come out and have a great game. Is it tomorrow night that they play? I think they'll win, and I think they'll lose a close one in Indiana.
In Indiana. Well, I got to be honest though. I mean, that game one, the momentum shifter and the loss, that shot by Halliburton, thought it was a 3 and he won the game. It was a 2, went to overtime. How lucky! I mean, and now granted, the Knicks should have never been in that position in the first place. They should have won that game walking away. But how lucky was that ball? Yeah. Was that shot hit and it came right down? Nothing but net. I mean, kidding me? How did that happen?
I
didn't even want to talk about the damn Patrick Ewing finger roll. We were already going to go there.
Right. So that was luck, John, without a doubt. But how about I don't even know how you say his name. Newsmith. Whatever his name. Neesmith. 6 straight threes?
Yeah.
See, this is the difference, is that they're getting this contribution.
Siakam's been crazy, too.
Well, Siakam's a great player. You expect it from Siakam. They're built to complement each other. And here's the thing. So they can get somebody to hit 6 threes in a row to get them back into a game and overcome a 20-point deficit in the fourth quarter. Right. Okay? They can also take it to the hole and create around the rim. And look, Siakam's a decent mid-range shooter, but Siakam's finishing at the hole. And Halliburton's a great player for him because he can facilitate when he needs to. And so, but all of their players contribute a little bit. And they just need these guys to have their normal game. And then 3 out of 7 players are going to fill the rest of the gap. And it could be 3 different players on any given night. And that's what makes them a championship team. When you talk about the great teams, okay, look at the Spurs, okay? Sure, you had Ginobili and Parker and Duncan, but all of a sudden Boris Diaw comes in at the age of 39 and hits 5 threes and blocks 4 shots and gets a clutch rebound at the end of the game and is guarding the other team's best player. These are the role players that make a difference. The Bruce Browns of a couple years ago on the Nuggets, it all makes a difference. And when you change that chemistry a little bit, things happen.
That's what you get. Yeah. Well, we'll see how everything plays out.
Look, as a Knicks fan, they've had a great season, and I do think that they have a really solid starting 5. So I don't think Knicks fans should think, okay, well, you need to do something, this, that. They're not playing their best ball at a time when a team that matches up really well against them is playing their best basketball.
That's the problem. That's the problem. When I said they shot their load, I mean, it took a lot. The Detroit series and the Boston series took a lot out of them.
Right.
And
look, and Brunson's been relatively healthy. Towns has been relatively healthy. Knock on wood. All of this stuff can implode in a second, with any team because of injuries.
Of course.
So the Knicks have made it this far. Do they need to probably find a couple? I think the Knicks just need some role players. There's talk about Giannis and all this. Do you really want to change this team again?
It doesn't have to be blown up. Not at all. Not at all. A couple minor tweaks here. They got the experience of this year under their belts. We'll see.
And this talk about firing Tibbs.
No,
I was going to ask you guys about that.
Give me a break.
No, Tibbs isn't going anywhere. The first head coach to get the Knicks in 25 years to the Eastern Conference Finals. He lost. Get him out of here. Really? Come on.
And look, while you can fault Tibbs for a lot of things, the one thing Tibbs and the front office of the Knicks were, let's face it, give them credit for, because they took a pretty big risk, is that they saw that Brunson, who was, a second or third option in Dallas, they saw that this guy could lead this team.
Right.
And they pushed him and gave him the confidence to be that guy. They set him up to be that guy. And that's been a game changer on this Knicks team. And I'll tell you what, I think Cat is a different guy than when he was in Minnesota. You can poke apart his defensive game all you want. I'll tell you what, he's been the most consistent Knick in the playoffs.
Agreed. No,
he reminds me of Joel Embiid a little bit. he's got some range on him that he did not have when he first came into the league.
He has been.
He's developed it.
He's been the most consistent player in the postseason.
And he's a hard guard. He just needs to learn how to put his hands up and move his feet on defense.
That would be good.
And I'll tell you what, as bad as he is, Brunson's far worse. And I think it's unfair that Brunson does not get called out on his defensive game. He's the Jamal Murray of the Knicks.
It's horrible.
Yeah. He's a matador.
Yes.
So if I couldn't imagine that Tibbs will get fired. I think you're right.
No.
But if he does, might it be like we're talking about what teams are doing now and how they're getting to where they are? And like if he's maybe not the right guy to make, you know what I mean, some of those moves. If he's not going to play any young guys or not going to rely on them, then how are you going to get to the point where you can match up with a team like Indiana, who, as you described, has what their good players do, and then 3 out of those other 7 guys are coming.
How you do it? Knicks front office, go find a replacement for Hartenstein. You didn't do it.
Yeah,
he wasn't a young guy.
Right.
You need to find. You lost a big piece, and you didn't address it.
Yeah,
you didn't address it because you felt really good about going out and getting Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah. So, but if he gets fired, is it because the front office says maybe he's not the guy to coach us? Because
I don't think
I
don't think this is even a discussion. He's not.
I don't think it's a discussion. And I think if he does get fired, then I think it's that more than one player said, "Hey, we would have won this if he didn't do these things." And I don't see.
And I don't think they're going to. No, I don't think that's the case.
I think these guys and look, I think Tibbs is.
They're never going to say that because whatchamacallit, the players on the Knicks are not Kyrie Irving and
look, Josh Hart mouthed off a little bit, right? It was Hart, I think. It was Hart. Yeah. Sure. But the rest of the guys quickly said, "No, I want to play the minutes that I'm playing. Mm-hmm. That's my that's my job." And so I think there's a good fit between the guys on this Knicks team and Tibbs. I really do. I think that there's a cohesion there. Now, you could be wrong. Sometimes things happen behind the scenes that you just don't know that's going on. You never know what's going on in that locker room.
Have you noticed, and I don't know if you see any of the press conferences afterwards, but have you noticed since Hart did that, he's been interviewed more than anybody else?
Yeah. Because
they want that soundbite.
Oh, yeah. You want to get clicks.
The difference is that he's calling out his coach, whereas, back in the day, Charles Oakley would be calling out his teammates for not hustling on defense.
Right.
That's the quote that the New York media wants.
On that note, and Pete, I'm sorry, I want you to just say what you're going to say. I just want to bring this up because you just said Charles Oakley. Somebody said on Boomer Geo this morning, somebody called up. I was listening to it while I was driving, and they said what the Knicks need to do is they need to get Oakley and whatchamacallit. I'm having so many senior moments today.
Well, Anthony Mason is dead.
No, not Anthony. No.
Give me a rough idea.
Mr. Owner.
Dolan, James Dolan.
James Dolan. Yeah. So get Oakley and Dolan together, and
it's the curse of Oakley, you think?
Right. And
have them kiss and make up.
Kiss and make up,
right with the Knicks,
and everything will be right with the Knicks. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Look, anybody who thinks that Charles Oakley is any part of the answer for the Knicks, you're wrong. And I like Oakley as far as Knicks that I like, but he's not going to save you anything.
Not at
all. All right, let me ask the question that I've asked before, and now that the Knicks are not in the midst of beating Boston and having beaten the Pistons prior. Take your fandom out of the mix. Has this been, Harry, you said it's been an interesting playoffs. Has this been a good playoffs? And
I think so.
I'll give you the quick numbers again.
Oh,
I added one here, and this is actually sort of, I think, bodes in the favor. Out of the series completed so far, there could have been a total of 84 games played. There were 66 played, which is 78%. So almost 80% of the games that could have been played. But we had 3 7-game series, 2 6s, 5 5s, and a couple of sweeps up to this point.
We always have that kind of mix.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't bother
to go back and look at other years.
Can you please go back 40 years and give us a breakdown of
Jimmy, get on that. Jimmy,
I gotta get ChatGPT on that. But I don't know. Has this? I mean, it's been compelling.
Yeah.
But I think that's
I'm a little
because
biased because I've been
Timberwolves
watching.
are back
I've been watching the
and
Knicks and the
because of
Nuggets the most.
the ascension of OKC, and I think because Indiana is proving that they are for real, and Cleveland is out, and but I don't know if it's been compelling because it's been great series. There have been some great games.
The Knicks, every series the Knicks have been in has been interesting, good basketball. I mean, the West has been, I think, pretty great. Now, this the finals, the conference finals here are a little lopsided, but that could change. But the Nuggets Clippers series was good. You had a couple other first round series that were really good. I think the Knicks Detroit, the Knicks Boston, the Knicks, even this series with Indiana it's been good basketball. I mean, there's been some huge comebacks and some crazy endings. It's what you would expect from playoff basketball. And it's kind of nice to me that there's some new blood out here. We're not watching Steph Curry and LeBron James drag their fucking sorry asses up and down the court.
I think that's probably the best thing about it. Yeah,
the fact that I don't have to watch Draymond Green fucking set illegal screens is lovely.
The West has been more competitive.
Yes.
3 7-game series, one of which in Thunder and the Nuggets. So yeah, I guess so. It's
and this year's the Midwest Conference Finals.
Yeah, it's definitely held my interest more than usual, which is saying something. So,
yeah, and I think that coupled with I think it's been an interesting NHL playoffs. There's a lot of sports on at night, and then by the way, there's baseball. So it's a good time to kind of watch.
And
sports.
you got organized
WNBA?
OTAs happening for the in the NFL too.
Oh God!
Hooray!
Yay!
Let's not talk about that.
No. We got plenty of time.
All right. Well, that's the NBA. I think it's going to be Indiana and OKC, and
I agree. And I think OKC
I think it's OKC in 6.
5. I'm going to say 5.
But you don't know. Indiana's
I don't know.
An interesting.
No. All close games. OKC in 5.
Yeah, there'll be a couple blowouts.
All right, wait. We got to make our official predictions right now, right?
We just did.
So OKC in 5.
I said
OKC 6.
Oh, 6. Okay, sorry.
I said 5. Harry.
Hopefully, it's not Minnesota in the next.
OKC in 6.
I wouldn't mind it being
OKC in 5.
What does RPM say?
Radio Pete's Cavaliers in 7.
I'm going to take the Fever.
Radio Pete says
13.
I'm going to take the Suns.
I'm taking Indiana in 7 games.
He's taking the Sonics. He's going to Sonics.
Nice.
Well, you know what? Should we do a little over under? I got a quick over under.
Go for it.
Involving the WNBA.
The NIBA. Oh, the WNBA, all right.
Yeah, WNBA. Very quick, very quick. So
go for it.
Well, I've got no chance of losing this time.
All right. So the WNBA season has been active for about 12 days, I guess now, and we did some over-under about teams, games won, and finals, end of the year rankings and stuff. So there's, although we're just a little bit into the season, but there's 2 teams that are undefeated: the Liberty and the Lynx.
Your Fever without Caitlin Clark for 2 weeks, so forget about your picks with that.
Well, it's a long season. It's 50. Did you know it's 50?
Not a long season.
It's 50 games this year instead of 40. They upped it.
Oh wow!
Games.
Look at that.
I didn't know that. So we're going to do an over-under for the Liberty and the Lynx when they're going to suffer their first loss. I know, I love this music too. I'm like, I searched for this generic lounge music, and this is what came up. This is, I think, a semi-famous song anyway. So, first loss for the Liberty, who play the Valkyries next, who are 2-2, although they're playing the Fever tonight, so they will either be 3-2 when they face the Liberty or 2-3. And then they play the Mystics, who are 2-3 right now. So the first loss over-under for the Liberty is 1.5.
Over.
So Harry says over.
John said over.
Oh, John says
over. I'll say over too.
And Harry says over. And I think I got to agree with you. Next up is the Lynx, who are 4-0 at this point. And their next game is against the Mercury of Phoenix, I assume, who are 4-1 at this point. And then they play the Valkyries, who are 2-2. But again, they play the Liberty tomorrow. So the Valkyries could end up 2-4 by the time they get to the Lynx, since if they lose to the Fever tonight and the Liberty tomorrow. So the Lynx first loss over under is 1.0.
Who do they play first?
They play the Mercury.
And then the Liberty?
No, and then the Valkyries.
Yeah,
so Liberty's 4-1. Valkyries right now are 2-2.
So I don't know what the over-under is, but I will say they won't lose in the next two games.
Over.
So you're going over.
Over.
It's 1. The over-under is 1.
Yeah, I don't know how to read this stuff.
All right, John?
The wagering man you are. Over. I said over.
Oh, sorry. John says over. Yeah. I'm going to take the under. Because I'm not sure.
Looking for the upset.
I'm not sure they're going to get by the Mercury.
There you go. All right.
That's the only question, but I think they will.
Yeah.
All right.
There we go.
That's her WNBA update.
There you go.
WNBA.
Over WNBA over.
WNBA.
All right.
Pick Ron.
Where is Pig Vomit when you need him?
WNBA.
Do we want to go to hockey next? Talk about the hockey players?
I believe that's probably a smart.
God, anybody but Florida.
I can't stand it. I mean,
I can't even stand watching those two teams skate around.
Can't they just pass a ruling that anybody that has a team,
with palm trees,
that has a team that where any time of year, if you move the rink outside, it would melt. Cannot win the Stanley Cup championship.
No one with palm trees. I don't know. Look, you got to give Florida credit. I mean, they're a hell of an organization, and they're just relentless, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're the favorites. I don't care. They've got to be the favorites. No, I mean, it's most likely looking like Edmonton coming out of the West. But I think
I'm all over the Edmonton. That's where I'm at.
They might need to bring Grant Fuhr in for for a backup goalie situation, but yeah,
I don't see that being a problem. I don't see it being a problem for them suiting up Gretzky and Messier either.
I think Messier could probably get in there and scrap.
Messier could probably still.
Gretzky doesn't look like he's ready for it.
Yeah, I don't think so. He's pretty content and just chilling.
He looks a little fragile. I mean, don't get me wrong; he's less fragile than I. But
that's true, right?
Yeah, but he looks a little fragile. Messier still looks like he could scrap.
I think you're right.
He could at least jaw his way to the penalty box.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think I would want to step in with Messier at this point.
No.
You'd become a Messier.
Yeah. Gretzky just kind of
a Messier.
You just got to look at him.
Messier. Got a little Messier.
You got a little Messier.
Yeah. Well, here you go. Lord Stanley's Cup should start next week, right?
Yeah, then it will.
NBA finals, NHL finals, Hey.
So it's looking like NBA. It's looking like OKC, Indiana, and NHL. It's looking like Edmonton, Florida.
Just some big name markets, man. Just
Oh yeah,
Indianapolis, Oklahoma City,
Indianapolis,
Edmonton,
Oklahoma City.
And I don't even know where Florida plays.
Miami.
Do they play in Miami?
I think so.
I don't think they do. I think they play outside of it.
Kissimmee.
Yeah,
they play in Hialeah.
They Pismo Beach.
There you go.
Well, listen, the Hurricanes aren't dead yet. They're up 2-0, but that doesn't really mean anything because they've had leads and blown them before.
They play in Sunrise, Florida.
Sunrise. That's it.
You know what will we have? Will we see maybe? I think the answer is no here, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. With some of these markets that we're not used to seeing in contention, in the mix, et cetera, will we see the country sort of embracing some of these teams and saying, yes, I know it's not LA and it's not Golden State or whatever.
Florida's a big enough market that, they've got enough people. Like, here's the thing with hockey fans is that there's a higher percentage of people that will fight their way to get into a game in the playoffs than they're watching the team on television. I mean, it's just hockey is a distant fourth when it comes to sports in this, and it'll never change. But they're not losing money by any means.
No. Well, Florida has a lot of transplanted New Yorkers too, so they want to root for something, and certainly it hasn't been a banner year for New York hockey.
No, they still had teeth when the Islanders were, good. So I think you started to see it a little bit with like teams like Anaheim because of the movies, and maybe you get some, but no. In fact, if anything, I see a lot of people kind of rooting for the more heritage teams, the historic teams, the Maple Leafs, even the Oilers now, the Jets. Right. The Canadians, teams like that, because I don't know, it's easier to jump on with those and kind of feel good about it as opposed to the Florida Panthers have been in the league for 10 years. Let's see them win another Stanley Cup. I don't know. It's probably been 30 years.
I wonder though if it's been if the viewership has been good for hockey, because as you have some of these lesser known markets in the NBA. If you don't technically have a dog in the fight, right? If you're a Lakers fan or you're a Golden State fan or you're I
think the NBA is more universally watched, but yeah.
Right, but if your dog's not in the fight and you're like, I'm not rooting for OKC, maybe you're switching over and watching a little bit of hockey instead. I wonder if their numbers are up at all.
I think what hockey has done, even in the same market, is that they have put the hockey games on at the same time as the basketball games. Mm-hmm. And I think for a lot of people, that's helpful because you're out. A lot of times you're out getting dinner. You're watching the beginning of the game at a sports bar or something, and you're catching a lot of it. Viewership for the NHL playoffs has shown a significant decline this year compared to previous years, while viewership in Canada has seen a surge. I wonder why.
Oh, hey, that's a mystery.
I think that it's you don't ever know what channel the hockey games are on, I
don't know. I have to tell them I don't know what channel friggin' baseball games are on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But U.S. ratings for the first two rounds of the playoffs were down significantly, with ESPN platforms averaging a 28% drop, TNT platforms averaging a 19% drop. And the second round was also down on ESPN and TNT by about 25%.
This is the NBA.
No, this is hockey.
Oh, this is hockey. Okay.
Yeah.
This is the NBA.
No, this is hockey.
Oh, this is hockey. Okay.
Yeah. And the first round on ESPN and ABC was down 29% from 2024. So I think it's just the teams. You could also see that as hockey went on, much like a little bit like basketball, you had the larger markets dropping off. So, I think to John's point, they're not in hockey. They're not jumping on and saying, hey, I'm going to watch Edmonton in Florida. If you're an Avs fan, or if you're a Maple Leafs fan.
Right. Well, also you have the time difference can have something to do with it too.
Yeah, a little bit.
If you're a Western Conference team fan and your team is out of it, maybe there's no one else in the conference that you want to watch because they're all from the West and they're your rivals throughout the regular season.
Right.
And, I mean, it's a little bit easier to watch a game that's on earlier, but certainly if it's the other way around, I'm an Eastern team fan and I don't have a dog in the fight, but I can't stay up until 2 a.m. to watch hockey.
Yeah. And I mean, I know for me, I watched a hell of a lot more of, Colorado, Dallas than I have Dallas, Edmonton, even though I've checked in here and there. Yeah. And I think you saw some other interesting second round matchups with the Capitals in it and the Maple Leafs still in it, and things like that. And I don't think Florida Carolina carries the weight of a Rangers Boston.
Right. Well, and I also wonder if you are a fan of one of the larger markets or one of the more traditionally successful teams, and your team is out of it, are you more likely to go or pay less attention than somebody who's a fan of a team?
I think for casual fans, so even mid-range fans. But for somebody like myself, sure, all right, the Knicks. Even if the Knicks get below, I'm still going to watch the NBA. I'm still, even if the Yankees get knocked out of the playoffs, I'm still going to watch the baseball playoffs. But I'm not, we're not necessarily like everybody else. It's like,
that's like
very few people are going to sit and watch a Carolina Florida Panthers game if they have no interest and can't name a player on either team.
Right. But if you're like a Lakers fan,
right, do
you care at all about this conference finals in the West?
I think so, because I think if you're a bandwagon Lakers fan, or you're what I call a social media or highlight fan, then no, you're not going to give a shit. But if you're a Lakers or a Knicks fan or a Nuggets fan, teams, and you've been watching basketball all your life, you're going to watch the NBA finals, no matter who the hell it is. You're going to watch the playoffs. But yeah, of course, the numbers game, the NBA will see a decline now that Boston and potentially the Knicks are out of it. The next round's going to, the finals is probably going to have a decline, of course. And this round has probably seen a decline between the previous rounds because it's a numbers game, and you had Boston and New York, which were the big market teams. You had Cleveland, which was a bigger market. You had Denver and Los Angeles, which I know Denver's not a huge market, but it's a big sports town and a lot of viewership. So OKC's got a good fan base, but it doesn't translate much out of OKC. Now, I think what the NBA has done is they've been able to take some players like SGA and market them for the last couple of years. And so I think that there's young kids don't have any relationship to Oklahoma City, but they're watching Anthony Edwards and they're watching, SGA, and there might be some kids watching Jokic and Brunson. And so they're able to market their stars a little better than I think the NHL is.
Agreed.
All right. So who do we like in the NHL finals? What are our predictions?
I think it's going to be Florida, Edmonton. And if I had a bet, I think Florida will win, but I'm going to definitely root for Edmonton.
100% exactly what Harry just said. It's
How
going to
many
be
games?
Edmonton, Florida.
I'm
going to say 7.
I think it's going to go 7. It just seems like it always does. Even though these rounds have been relatively slim so far. I hope it goes.
I think the matchup's better.
Yeah. Edmonton's playing really well, and Florida is too, but I think they'll give them a run for their money. Look, Dallas is a good team, and I think that bodes well. I think Edmonton's sort of the Pacers right now. They keep getting a little better, and their goaltending has been way better than I think people thought it was going to be. So, and they're scoring. Let's hope it's a 7-game series.
I'm gonna take the Oilers in 7.
Yeah,
just to be contrarian.
There you go. I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'll take Florida, but I'm pulling for. I'm
totally all over Edmonton. I don't want Florida to win. I'm over Florida.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those. They show those meme maps.
Not the state. Anybody listening in Florida, love you guys.
No, we don't.
Plenty of friends.
No, Florida.
In Florida.
You suck as a state too.
No, the whole state.
The Panthers.
Suck. There's some cool spots.
Yeah,
oh no, there's some cool spots, but overall,
but
I think it's going to be one of those Panthers fans in red, and it's just going to be Florida, and then whoever the opponent is, the entire rest of the country is going to be rooting.
The rest of the country, yeah, exactly. One of those the drugs of the United States and Canada or whatever.
Yeah,
the state of Florida is
Panthers country.
Everywhere else, Oilers.
Yeah, and Edmonton has not noticed the increase in beer sales.
They have not. It's not like it's Calgary. Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
They've noticed an increase in people calling in sick the day after a hockey game. But yeah.
Oh hell no. I have beer friends in Calgary. That's why I said that.
Oh, okay. All right, I got you.
Yeah. Well, imagine that. Imagine if it was the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
I think they've been there more recently, though. Haven't they made it to the finals?
Yeah.
The last
All right.
Calgary Flame I can name is Lanny McDonald. It's not good.
Yeah.
I should not be talking about hockey.
You should not be. Yeah. Cool. All
right. There we go.
All right. Yeah. I mean,
Baseball?
what do you think, Pete? Is there much to talk about other than teams played some games?
Not really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got
good.
You guys have to be happy as Mets fans.
I think Pete, you summed it up in the intro with the who's in first, now who's on first, who's in first. Yeah.
I mean, I think look, my summary of baseball right now is the Phillies. I mean, the Mets are a great story, but I did not see the Phillies being this strong of a team coming out of the gate. I think that the Dodgers are beatable.
Well, obviously the Mets just beat them. They got to play 4 games next week.
I think I was telling you guys. I mean, the Mets are on pace to win way over 100 games, and
but think about this. To your point, Yankees and Mets, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Think about how the Mets are playing right now, and a lot of this is defense, and a lot of this is pitching too.
Same thing with the Yankees.
Same thing with the Yankees. But think about when Juan Soto, and I'm going to say when, I'm not going to say if, because Juan Soto is still Juan Soto. Think about when Juan Soto actually does start being Juan Soto.
Yeah.
For the Mets, what's going to happen there? Knock on wood.
Yeah,
okay. And for the Yankees, and assuming he does, and for the Yankees, think about when your buddy Stanton comes back.
Yeah. And there's a couple of Yankees. Look, the one thing I will tell you from watching the Yankees this year that I feel way better about, with the exception of left field, is one of the best things. I'm going to say this. I don't want to be a hater. I don't miss Jazz Chisholm. I don't miss him. I like, DJ at second. Goldschmidt has been the pickup of the offseason. If we just got Bregman at third, but I mean, Volpe's
but he's hurt now.
Well, I know, but Volpe's playing better at shortstop. You got Judge and right. You got Grisham's having a great year. So it's nice when Dominguez. I wish Dominguez would move more to the DH spot. I watched him the other day live, misplay a fly ball that was. Anyway, he'd also hit a home run to win a game. So let's give him credit where credit's due. But it's nice to see a team that's solid on defense. And the Mets are winning old school, man, pitching and defense. And yeah, when their lineup comes, like, Alonso's going to settle down into reality, but he's still having an all-star season. And I just couldn't imagine why other teams didn't go after him. It blew my mind. Anyway.
He wasn't like
sometimes throw the ball over the catcher's head, but it's
I got a theory on that. Well, yeah, those 2 throws were horrendous, but I mean, it's like he's channeling his inner Lucas Duda.
But he's better than Anthony Rizzo,
right? But here's the thing: I have a theory on why other teams did go after him, because they knew damn well
he was going to resign.
He was going to resign with the Mets.
They didn't want to jack juice the price up. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Waste their time.
Exactly.
And look, all the criticism of Soto's game goes beyond his numbers. His on-base percentage and his ability to score runs and create runs is pretty spectacular. So
I agree, and I have a theory on this too. And I said this to several people, and I think I might have said it a couple weeks ago on the show. Pete is a great player. Pete is doing what Pete's doing because of Pete. Okay, but do you think there might be another reason that Pete's able? To do what he's doing?
Absolutely.
It might have something to do with Juan Soto.
And look, do you think there's a reason why Paul Goldschmidt is hitting 40 points above what he did last year, or he did career-wise, and why Cody Bellinger is finally catching heat? It's because they got a guy in the lineup that nobody wants to pitch to.
Right.
So that did help Soto. I mean, I'm not saying that to diminish Juan Soto. You know how I feel about him. I think he's a great player. But Soto is a 260 hitter. The great thing about Soto is that when he gets a hit, it's when you need it. I don't care about any of that right now. Soto is most valuable September and October, and he's
four teams.
He is one of the best.
He's
Freddie
clutch.
Freeman last year and Juan Soto. They were the best playoff performers in baseball.
He's clutch, and that's the important thing, right? But 4 teams Juan Soto's been on. The Nationals, he had Harper.
Right.
San Diego, he had Machado.
Yeah, and a couple others.
He had, and Yankees, he had Judge, and now he has Solano.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Hey, look. I think the Mets are great. Detroit is. I think Pete picked them to win that division. They're on fire. The Cubs look really good. Pete and I were talking about this while we were waiting for you to come on the air. Yankees are plus 112, and it's not. And they're like in the top 10 in runs against. So they're pitching. But the thing that I worry about with the Yankees is that they need another starter. I don't trust Will Warren in big games, and they're just abusing their bullpen. It's the same thing. They're just abusing the bullpen. I mean, it's not good. Can a starter just go 7? Can you just? Why is it that at the middle of the 4th inning, when you pitch 4 into 3rd innings, then the wheels fall off? Why is that?
Take him out. Put him in. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's score enough runs where we can.
On that note, when you were at the game the other day,
2-hour rain delay.
Were you the only Yankee fan there? Or were there others?
Oh, it was predominantly Yankee fans, especially after the rain delay. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
It's look, when you go to a Rockies game and there's any big team, whether it's the Cubs, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets, the list goes on and on.
It's the away team's home game.
Sometimes look, to be honest, it was probably 60-40 Rockies fans, but 40% Yankees fans make it feel like it's 80% Yankee fans.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Let's just say we're a little louder.
Gotcha. What was that?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. There wasn't anybody screaming at Luke Weaver on the Rockies side as much as I was screaming at him on the Yankees side.
There you go.
Yeah. To get the motherfucker out. He's hitting 117. Get him out.
Yeah.
End this fucking game so I can go home.
Corbin Burns, or whatever his name is, from Major League. Strike this motherfucker out.
Right. And I don't know. There's always a reliever.
Roger Dorn. That's where I was going.
There's always a reliever on the Yankees that I want to strangle, and we've got him in Devin Williams. It's just mind-bogglingly frustrating. Anyway,
all right.
Look, I mean, Yankees and Mets both on pace to win 100 games, which I didn't think the Yankees would.
Yeah.
100+.
And I was saying to Harry before we got started, I'm fine with the Mets kind of being in and around first place. They don't have to get in first and hold on to it for the whole season for me. Just be there, ready to make a charge. We'll see if the Phillies hold up, but which I think they will.
And you would think. I thought Atlanta would maybe make a push, but I think it's going to be the Phillies.
They have made a push.
It's between the Phillies.
They were so far down.
The Phillies and the Mets.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal when Atlanta went over 500 last week. I think it was.
Yeah. And I think what the Dodgers have working against them is that their division play, with the exception of the Rockies, is tough. Everybody in that division's tough.
Yeah,
right, the Padres and the Diamondbacks are all good.
Yeah. So they got to play a lot of games.
I mean, everybody's saying the NL East was tough. The NL West is tougher than the NL East right now.
Yeah. The top of the NL East is tough. The whole NL West, with the exception of the Rockies.
That's what I meant. The entire thing.
Yeah. Like, what do you do with the Rockies? Like, should Major League Baseball
sell them?
Should they have like a relegation system maybe?
No.
Where if you if you refuse to spend money and you're crying,
they do spend money though. Their payroll is in the top 15. They do spend money. They just don't spend it wisely. And here's the challenge with the Rockies. The Rockies draw, they make money, and the fans will come no matter what. Okay, the Monforts need to sell the Rockies to somebody who wants to think outside of the box and get this team to be competitive, which it has been periodically over the years. But the only way to do that, okay, is to get a lineup that can mash the shit out of the ball so that you can make up for the fact that you are never getting any big name pitchers here. Now,
didn't they just fire their manager?
Well, yeah. But I mean, it didn't make much of a difference.
No, but I give you a call at least to ask you if you'd interview for the job.
Yeah, I was the bench coach for 2 series, but they too many bats were broken.
Gotcha.
By you. Look, here's the thing with the Rockies. They have some good young talent. Tovar's a good talent. Hunter Goodman's a good talent. They've got some relievers. Even Marquez the other day, starting wise, I think his record's like 1-8. But like, it's like, all right, he gave up 4 runs, but you have to be able to have a team that can make an ace out of a pitcher that gives up 4 runs occasionally in 5 innings of play in Denver. You know, it didn't seem to bother Max Fried the other day. It didn't seem to bother, there's other pitchers that come in here and can pitch well. I think that power pitchers don't necessarily do as well here. I think you need guys who can throw some junk and can nip the corners. And they need to go out and find that. I think if they change the ownership to an owner that really wants to win and isn't complacent with just making money, having a mediocre team. Now, the Monforts can sit there and complain about how the league is skewed towards the big markets and the big teams, blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. The Nuggets have become a competitive team. The Broncos are perennially a competitive team. The Avalanche. The Denver's a sports town. Population-wise, it might not be in the top, 5 as far as big cities sports-wise, but from a sports culture-wise, it punches way above its weight. And they're gonna have people who are gonna come to the games no matter what. But you need to change the ownership. It's the only way you're gonna do it. And then you need to have an owner who is able to get somebody in here that runs this team much like, look, they need to run it like the Oakland A's, but the Rockies are willing and have spent way more money than teams like that. So if you can get that sort of efficiency and be able to get a few big name players in here, they just have made bad decisions on who they've paid. Chris Bryant, rest my case. They've given guys money. They just have not been able to put together a team. And I think it's just ownership. Either that or ownership really has to make a concerted effort to bring in some president of baseball operations, a GM, whatever the case it is, that's more of a disruptor and really be able to go out there and become more aggressive with what they're doing. I also think they need a big name manager. I think they need somebody with some cachet to come in here and coach this team.
There you go. All right. Colorado's 24th on the payroll list right now. So
out of how many teams?
Out of 30. 30.
Okay. What were they last year though? So
let's take a look. 2024 filtering. Colorado last year was 17th.
See,
so they're spending way less now here, but without that, right? They're spending money poorly, and now they're spending even less this year.
And now they're backing it up.
Question: Can you have enough consistency? If you talk about the big name pitchers that don't want to go there, can you have enough consistency and enough success so that this circle where the better pitchers will be willing to go there, because if they're not, then this good young talent, why are they going to stick around if there's not enough?
Well, here's your answer.
You can't win every game,
right? No. I understand
6-5,
and they did that. They did that. They were able to get some big name players here, pitchers here, and they just couldn't. They weren't able to perform. They were 14th in payroll in 2023. So in 2 years, they've dropped 11 spots. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. The Rockies ranked number 21 in MLB payroll for 2025 opening day. That's per the Denver Gazette. So,
well, we will see how that all plays out.
Yeah, they need new ownership.
They do.
I agree. It's not the players and it's not the manager.
Yeah, the Rockies went to the playoffs a couple of years ago. So. And they have some good, decent young players.
They've been in the World Series a lot more recently than a lot of other teams. So.
Yeah, right. But they're pretty horrible.
I mean, they lost it, but still.
Yeah. Trust me, I know. I had third row tickets to Game 5,
and you were rooting.
There never was one.
You didn't root for Boston?
No, not that year. Fuck that.
All right.
All right.
Anything from football?
What do you think? Nah, nothing for football for another couple of shows.
Yeah, no. We have to...
Except, will Aaron Rodgers be signed by the Steelers?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, but I predict by, if not the next show, the show after that, he will be signed by the Steelers.
I think by the third game of the year.
Well, that's another thing, too.
Let me
It'll be a walk-on game one, that's all.
Is Bubby Brister there?
I am not a Steelers fan by any stretch of the imagination, of course.
Norm Speed.
Being a Jet fan and being a Cowboys fan, I have plenty of hatred for the Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm finding it hard to wish Aaron Rodgers on them. Like, I should be, sign him. It's going to be great.
Well, if they don't go with him, it's Mason Rudolph, right?
I will. What was that?
If they don't sign Rodgers, it's Mason Rudolph. Is there?
Yeah. Well, that might be better.
The best helmet swinger in the East.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, did he swing the helmet, or he got smacked in the head with the helmet?
I think. Did he get hit in the head?
Because
didn't he throw it at or something?
No, he didn't.
The defensive end or something.
Myles Garrett.
It was Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett ripped his helmet off and hit him with it.
And hit him in the head with it. So
that's the ultimate bitch slap.
Good luck, Pittsburgh.
That sucks. That's your one claim to fame. I got bitch slapped with my own helmet.
Well, at least it was by a really good player. Wasn't some second string safety.
Was it a punter? You didn't get bitch slapped by somebody with a single bar across their helmet.
Exactly.
All right.
All right. We good?
Any quickies? Any hot takes?
No.
I got nothing for. Are they for real?
I started my list of hot takes, but we will do it on the next show. I got there was a couple that were timely 2 weeks ago when I worked on, but they're not timely now.
Hot takes and hot cakes next time, folks.
We'll do our hot takes and hot cakes in the next show. So there you go.
All right.
And we'll have an Are They For Real too. So it's first show.
Yeah, I don't have anything for Are They For Real.
So there you go.
I was trying to find something with the.
I got a quick one for you. It was one we did on the beer show last night. Memorial Day was just 2 days ago. All right. So Memorial Day, honoring vets and those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to live.
Is this an official, just a quickie?
It's a quick hot take.
I thought we were done.
We went through all the wars.
Wait,
hold on.
If you got a hot take,
it's a hot take. Quick hot
all right,
take.
so hang on, because I've been working on this.
All right.
Can I leave?
Hot takes.
Hey,
there we
love
go.
that.
And hot cake.
And
hot takes and hot cakes. There you go.
Those hot cakes look good.
All right. So both of you, whoever goes first, fine. You know what? We'll go Radio Pete first. I'm not going to go through all the wars, but movies wise, it's just one. It's one.
Your favorite war movie?
No.
What's your favorite war?
What's the best Vietnam War movie?
Oh my God.
Apocalypse Now. Is that a Vietnam? Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be either that or Platoon.
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now from Harry, and Radio Pete says
I'm going to say Platoon just because I can sit through that more than Apocalypse Now is really great, but you got to commit to it.
One that was brought up last night was Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, that's really good too.
Yeah.
I'm going to put those tied.
All right, and
then
of course and an honorable mention I'll throw in there because you can't rule it out because it was a Vietnam War movie.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Good Morning Vietnam.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. So
I was waiting for that.
Granted, the other three blow it away, right?
Honorable
But
mention,
I mean, for Robin Williams.
I mean, Good Morning Vietnam's a little harsh with the violence, but yeah.
Good morning, Vietnam.
I mean, could they bring a little humor into it and a little levity? Jesus,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
What does 3 up and 3 down mean? What does 3 up and 3 down mean to your airmen? End of an inning.
A little bit of humor would have been good. So.
I mean, was MASH technically a movie? that
was
wasn't
the
Vietnam.
Korean War. It was the Korean War.
Yeah,
And it was a movie and a
actually,
TV show.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, there was a movie first, and then the
Yeah.
TV show came from that.
Yeah, I forgot.
And there was only one actor that played the same character in both the movie and the TV show.
Not Pants.
No, it wasn't.
No, it's
No,
Gary
it was,
Bergdorf, Radar O'Reilly.
Gary Bergdorf, Radar O'Reilly.
Radar. There you go. There could only be one Radar.
In the movie,
They couldn't
Kellerman
afford to resize all the dresses.
This is true.
And I don't remember in
Slinger.
the series. You guys help me. I do remember a character in the movie, who's I'm assuming it was his nickname was Spear Chucker.
Spear Chucker, yeah.
Who was the ringer in the football game?
Spear Chucker Jones, yes.
Spear Chucker Jones. So I don't think
and he was in the. He was
right.
in, no.
On that note,
He was a character in the movie. He was, and he was in the first. There was a character by that name in the first season of the TV show.
Oh, there was. Okay,
there was. Yeah, but and then that was it.
How about that? See, I didn't know that.
Imagine that.
And Hot Lips Houlihan was played by Loretta Swit in the TV show, but played by Sally Kellerman.
Sally Kellerman, yeah. That's a good debate. Who is a hotter, Hot Lips?
Hotter Hot Lips.
A younger Sally.
I got to go with Sally. Nothing against. I love Loretta Swit was great.
Loretta Swift didn't do it for me.
I'm gonna go with
They needed more. That's maybe why I didn't watch MASH. They needed more women on that show.
Well, they had Nurse Kelly.
Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, Platoon, virtually interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
Good Morning Vietnam, honorable mention, and Sally Kellerman, hotter Hot Lips.
Is hotter Hot Lips.
For the best Vietnam piece of ass.
Those are the hot takes. There you go.
Those are excellent hot takes. Yeah.
Those are excellent hot takes. All right. I think we're good.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Back in 2 weeks. We'll have
with our update of how the Minnesota Timberwolves New York Knicks NBA final is going.
100%. and the Dallas Stars Carolina Hurricanes.
That's right. And how the and the Colorado Rockies leading the wild card charge.
Exactly.
All right. So in case you realize we have along with Jimmy, the show's been so successful, we were able to hire an announcer.
Harry Hanlon, yes, we did.
So
Another
we
Harry.
hired a guy named Harry Hansen.
He's one of the Hansen brothers.
Apparently. Well, the music thing only lasted so long. So
exactly.
But Harry Hansen's going to take us home. So we'll see everybody in 2 weeks, I guess.
We'll see you in 2 weeks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all for watching. For those of you listening to the audio podcast, a passel of thanks for listening. You're all really swell. Visit our website at www.getonwithitpodcast.com. Once again, that's getonwithitpodcast.com. Like us and follow us on all our social media. Go to Instagram, Facebook, and X and search for the Get On With It podcast. All of our shows are available on YouTube on the Lager Room channel. Just click the live tab to reach the show archive. The video podcast goes live on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook every other Wednesday at around 7:30 Eastern Time. You can find the audio podcasts on our host, Spreaker, as well as your favorite platform. If you haven't already, quit your dilly-dallying and subscribe so you will never miss a show. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great rest of your week and watch lots of sports. For the boys, this is Harry Hansen saying, see you in a fortnight.